The Three Musketeers by Rudyard Kipling. Narrated by Robin Nixon. And when the war began, we chased the bold Afghan, and we made the blooming Ghazi for to flee, boys oh. And we marched into Kabul, and we took the Bala Issa, and we taught 'em to respect the British soldier. Barrack Room Ballad. Mulvaney, Ortheris and Leroyd are privates in B Company of a line regiment, and personal friends of mine. Collectively, I think, but am not certain, they are the worst men in the regiment, so far as genial blackguardism goes. They told me this story in the Umballa refreshment room while we were waiting for an up train. I supplied the beer. The tale was cheap, at £1.5 gallons. All men know Lord Benira Trig. He is a duke, or an earl, or something unofficial, also a peer, also a globetrotter. On all three accounts, as Ortheris says, he didn't deserve no consideration. He was out in India for 3 months collecting materials for a book on our Eastern impedimenta, and quartering himself upon everybody, like a Cossack in evening dress. His particular vice, because he was a radical, men said, was having garrisons turned out for his inspection. He would then dine with the officer commanding and insult him across the mess table about the appearance of the troops. That was Benira's way. He turned out troops once too often. He came to Hellenthami cantonment on a Tuesday. He wished to go shopping in the bazaars on Wednesday, and he desired the troops to be turned out on a Thursday. On a Thursday. The officer commanding could not well refuse, for Benira was a lord. There was an indignation meeting of subalterns in the mess room to call the colonel pet names. But the rail demonstration, said Mulvaney, was in Bay Company barrack. We three hadn't it. Mulvaney climbed onto the refreshment bar, settled himself comfortably by the beer, and went on. When the rye was at its finest and B Company was for going out to murder this man Trig on the parade ground, Leroyd here takes up his helmet and says, "Oh, what was it you said?" "I said," said Leroy, "Guess brass. Take up a subscription, lads, for to put off the parade, and if parade's not put off, I'll get the brass back again. That's what I said. All B Company knowed me. I took up a big subscription, 4 rupees, 8 annas 'twas, and I went out to turn out job over. Mulvaney and Ortheris come with me." "We three raises the devil in couples generally," explained Mulvaney. Here Ortheris interrupted. "Have you read the papers?" said he. "Sometimes," I said. "We had read the papers, and we put up a faked decoy, a seduction." "Abduction, ye cockney," said Mulvaney. "Abduction or seduction, no great odds. Anyhow, we arranged to take and put Mr. Benira out of the way till Thursday was over, or he's too busy to rux himself about the parades. He was the man what said, 'I will make a few rupees off of the business.' We held a council of war," continued Mulvaney, "walking round by the artillery lines. I was president, Leroyd was Minister of Finance, and little Ortheris here was a blooming Bismarck. He made his old show pay. This interfering bit of a Benira man," said Mulvaney, "did the trick for us himself. For on my soul, we had a notion of what was to come after the next minute. He was shopping in the bazaar on foot. 'Twas drawing dusk then, and we stood watching the little man opening an eye to the shops, trying to introduce the niggers to mull him his bat. Presently he strolls up, his arms full of truck, and he says in a consequential way, sticking eye to his little belly, 'Me good man,' says he, 'have you seen the colonel's brush?' 'A brush?' says Leroyd. 'There's no brush here, no but a hecker.' 'What's that?' says Trig. Leroyd shows him one down the street, and he says, 'How truly oriental, I will ride on a hecker.' I saw then that our regimental saint was a forgiving Trig over to a snick and brisket. I pursued a hecker, and I says to the driver devil, I says, 'You black limb, there's a sahib coming for this hecker. He wants to go to Jildy, to the Patsy Jill. 'Twas about 2 miles away, to shop Snape Cheeria. You drive Jenham Kermafik, Malum, like hell. 'Tis no manner of use bucking to the sahib, because he doesn't samjo your tack. If he borrows anything, you just chop and chell, dicker. Go Asti for the first hour a mile from cantonments, then chell. Satan you Kermafik, and the chupa you choops and the charlie you chells, the better cushy will that sahib be, and here's a rupee for you.' The hecker man knew there was something out of the common in the air. He grinned and says, 'But Archie, I'm going damn fast. I prayed the Colonel's brush wouldn't arrive till me darling Benira, by the grace of God, was under way. The little man put his truck in the hecker and scuttles in like a fat guinea pig, never offering us the price of a drink for a service and helping him home. He's off to Padsahi jail, says I to the others. Ortheris took up the tale. Just then, little Baldo came up, who was the son of one of the artillery grooms. He would have made a heavenly newspaper boy in London, being sharp and fly to all manner of games. He'd been watching us putting Mr. Benira into his temporary barouche, and he says, "What have you been doing, of sahibs?" says he. Leroy caught him by the ear, and he says, "Yes," went on Leroy, "a young man. That man's going to have guns out Thursday tomorrow, and does more work for you, young man. And I'll say that take a tat and lookery and ride that dumdist to Patsel jail. Could that here hecker and tell driver in your lingo that you're going to take his place. Sahib don't speak to that, and he's little man. Drive to hecker into Patsel jail into Waver. Leave Sahib there and run home, and here's a rupee for that." Then Mulvaney and Ortheris spoke together in alternate fragments, Mulvaney leading. "He was a knowing little devil, was Baldo. He says bout Atchie and cats, with a wink in his eye. But he says there's money to be made, and I wanted to see the end of the campaign. So he says we'll double out to the Padsy jail and save the little man from being dacoited by the mother in Baldo, and turn up like rescuers in a Victoria melodrama. So we doubled for the jail, and presently there was a devil in a harush behind us, and 3 boys and grasscats ponies come by, pointing along for their dear life. Tell me, Bob, if Baldo hadn't raised a regular army of decoys, today the job in style, and we ran, and they ran, splitting with the laughing till we gets near the jail, and here's sounds of distress floating melancholy in the heavenly air." Ortheris was growing poetical under the influence of the beer, but the duet recommenced, Mulvaney leading again. Then we heard Baldo the dacoit shouting to the hecker man, and one of the young devils brought a stick down on the top of the hecker cover, and Benira Trig inside bawled murder at death, and Baldo takes the reins and drives like mad for the jail, having dispersed the hecker driver. "Oh, come up to us, and he says he, that sahib's nigh mad with funk. What devil's work have you let me into?" "All right," says we. "You catch that there pony and come along. This sahib's been dacoited, and we're going to rescue him." Says the driver, "Decoits? What decoits?" "That's Baldo the budmash." "Baldo, be sure," says we. "'Tis a wild dissolute paithen from the hills. There's about 8 of 'em, of course, in the sahib. You remember that, and you'll get another rupee." And then we heard the whop, whop, whop of the hecker turning over, and a splash of water, and the voice of Benira Trig calling upon God to forgive his sins, and Baldo and his friends squatting in the water like boys in the Serpentine. Here the 3 musketeers retired simultaneously into the beer. "Well, what came next?" said I. "What next?" answered Mulvaney, wiping his mouth. "Would you let the bold soldier boys have the ornament of the House of Lords to be joined and dacoited in a jail? We formed line of quarter column and we descended upon the enemy. For the better part of 10 minutes you could not hear yourself speak. The tattoo was screaming and chain with Benira Trig and Baldoon's army, and the sticks was whistling round the hecker, and Ortheris was beating the hecker cover with his fisties, and Leroy yelling, 'Look out for their knives,' and me cutting into the dark right and left, dispersing army corps over the pathans. Holy Mother of Moses, 'twas more desperate than armied Kale with Maywood thrown in. After a while Baldo and his boys flees. Have you ever seen a real live lord trying to hide his nobility under a foot and half of brine swamp water? 'Tis the living image of a water carrier's goatskin with the shivers. It took some time to persuade my friend Benira he was not disemboweled, and more time to get out the hicker. The driver came up after the battle, swearing he took a hand in repulsing the enemy. Benira was sick with the fear. We escorted him back, very slow, to the cantonments, for that and the chill to soak into him. It suck. Glory be to the regimental saint, but it suck to the marrow of Lord Benira Trig. Here, Ortheris slowly, with immense pride. He says, "You are my noble preservers," says he. "You are a honour to the British Army," says he. With that, he describes the awful band of dacoits what set on him. There was about 40 of them, and he was overpowered by numbers, so he was. But he never lost his presence of mind, so he didn't. He gave the hecker driver 5 rupees for his noble assistance, and he said he would see to us after he'd spoken to the colonel, for we was a honour to the regiment, we was. "And we three," said Mulvaney, with a seraphic smile, "have drawn the particular attention of the Bob's Bahadur more than once, but he's a real good little man, is Bob's. Go on, Ortheris, me son." Well, then we leaves him at the Colonel's house, where he's sick, and we cuts over to B Company Barrack, and we says we've saved Benira from a bloody doom, and the chances was again they're being parade on Thursday. About 10 minutes later, come 3 envelopes, one for each of us. So help me, Bob, if the old bloke hadn't gave us a £5 apiece, 64 rupees in the bazaar. On Thursday, he was in hospital, recovering from his sanguinary encounter with a gang of pavans, and B Company was drinking themselves into clink by squads. So there never was no Thursday parade. But the Colonel, when he heard of our gallant conduct, he says, I know there's been some divilry somewhere, says he, but I can't bring it home to you three. And my private impression is, said Mulvaney, getting off the bar and turning his glass upside down, that if they'd known they wouldn't have brought it home. 'Tis flying in the face, firstly of nature, second of the regulations, and third the will of Terence Mulvaney to hold parades of Thursdays. Good, my son, said Leroyd, but young mon, what's the notebook for? Let be, said Mulvaney. This time next month we're in the Sherappies. 'Tis immortal fame the gentleman's going to give us, but keep it dark till we're out of the range of my little friend Bob's Bahadur. And I have obeyed Mulvaney's order.